Hello there and welcome. This is another political. Hello and welcome there, dear viewer. My name is Omar and this is another Politicrat dispatch. And I'm going to be talking about voting. In this case, early voting. In this case, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, one of the things that has been floated a lot on social media, on group chats and meetings on Zoom, and on corporate cable news television, as well as in a number of other areas, is this notion that Pennsylvania has early voting on September the 16th. That is not true. That is completely false. Not accurate at all. Pennsylvania does not have any early voting starting on September the 16th. September the 16th in Pennsylvania is the day on the calendar that county elections offices across the Commonwealth can start to and must begin processing applications from voters for mail-in ballots and absentee ballots. That's what September 16th is. I can tell you I've spoken to at least three different election officials in the Pennsylvania Board of Elections, and each of them has confirmed to me that there is no early voting in Pennsylvania on September the 16th. There is none. One of them said to me that they just did not understand where the September 16th date came from. And one other official told me that they had been fielding hundreds of calls from confused voters in Pennsylvania, thinking that September the 16th was the date that they could come in to their county in the state of Pennsylvania, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I should say, and start voting in person, which they can't do. And they can't vote by absentee ballot or by mail either on September the 16th. So, first of all, I want to make it very clear that it is absolutely false. They cannot vote on September 16th in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is not doing any early voting on September 16th. And I've heard so many people on television say this information that it's not on the that it's on the 16th, that it's on the 16th. Peter Alexander of MSNBC today said it on his show that he was guest hosting for someone. I think it was Andrea Mitchell or somebody, and he was sitting there saying, "Oh, September the 16th." It's like, no, Peter, no. I had to go on social media and tell him, no, that is not true. So that's one. Number two, when people talk about early voting, they don't define or tell their viewers or their followers on social media or their general audience that there are different types of early voting. Because I guarantee you, when most people hear the words early voting, I would bet you most of those people think that means I can go in person and vote early. And that's not necessarily true. Early voting takes very different forms. It has several different types to it. It's not just one component. There's early voting by mail, there is early voting by absentee ballot, and there's early voting in person. Now, Pennsylvania doesn't really do any early voting in person at all. You might be able to drop off a vote by mail ballot in person, but there is no early voting en masse in Pennsylvania. There really isn't in person. What Pennsylvania does have, by the way of early voting, are voting by mail and absentee ballots. Those are the two types of early voting that happens in Pennsylvania. And none of that voting will begin until late September of this year or early October of this year. Because that range is when the counties across the Commonwealth begin to mail out the mail-in ballots and the absentee ballots to Pennsylvania voters who have applied for them. Just for the record, the deadline in Pennsylvania to apply for a mail-in ballot, and that's a ballot that any registered voter in Pennsylvania can actually apply for without any excuse at all. They can just, if they want a mail-in ballot, they can apply for one. They don't have to show a reason or excuse as to why. The deadline for a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot is one in Pennsylvania where you have to have a reason, whether you're sick, you're ill, you're disabled, you won't be able to make it to the polls on election day. That's when you apply for an absentee ballot in Pennsylvania. So the deadline to apply for either a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot in Pennsylvania is October the 29th at 5 p.m. That's the deadline. That application for either a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot must be received. That application must be received by 5 p.m. on October the 29th, 2024. That is the deadline. Your county clerk's office must receive that ballot application by October 29th at 5 p.m. No later than that. That's from their website. I'm going to give you links in the description for this video for that information that I've just given you. And I'm also going to give you a link to all 67 counties in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So if you live in Pennsylvania or know someone who lives in Pennsylvania, you can point them to the links to this video in the description area, and then they can contact whichever county's Board of Elections that they happen to live in, whichever county. There are websites for each and every one of the 67 counties in the link that I'm going to add, one of the links to the description for this video. So stay tuned. Make sure you do consult that link. There'll be a couple of links in there for the election information I'm giving you. So those are the only two types of early voting in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, September 16th, as I said, is not an early voting date in Pennsylvania. I already told you that. I already told you I've spoken to 3 officials in Pennsylvania who confirmed that very same fact when I spoke to them over the phone. And the only other thing I'm going to say is that the deadline to return your absentee ballot by mail ballot or your absentee ballot, whether you drop them off in the mail or return them in person to your county clerk's office, is November the 5th at 8 p.m. No postmarking if you're mailing it back. You have to make sure that your county clerk's office in Pennsylvania receives your mail-in ballot or absentee ballot no later than 8 p.m. on November the 5th, 2024. That is the last date that it can be received, and the latest it can be received is 8 p.m. That, of course, is election night, the very last night of the election. Now, of course, on election day in Pennsylvania, you can vote in person. And in fact, prior to election day, you can drop off your ballot in person. But there isn't any real early in-person voting in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I will, again, in the link in the description of this video, you will see the areas where you can click on and you will get the information that I've already given out to you here. So please, if you are someone in Pennsylvania or know someone in Pennsylvania, please show this video to them and please show them the links to the information that they will need. The best bet is to contact your county board of elections in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I'm Omar Moore, and thank you for watching this Politicrat